Starting to heat up, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the most creative scores in the W. Starting to go on a rampage here. They've cut it to 5.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic. We got a special show for you guys today. Really excited about this one. I mean, for all the dogs, baby. Drake drops his album, and for all the dogs, for Dick Butkus, Justin Fields and DJ Moore pull out the first win in 364 days. The Chicago Bears beat the Washington Commanders on Thursday Night Football. It wasn't like last year. It wasn't a snooze fest. It didn't end on a horrible Darnell Mooney drop. We won 40-20. We dropped a 40 ball on their fucking head. Pardon my language, but you got to talk about it because the Bears dropping 40 as an offense doesn't happen often. I mean, it was just a phenomenal game. It was a phenomenal game all around. It was exactly what we wanted to see. In all seriousness, unfortunately, we did lose the late and great Dick Butkus, the greatest linebacker to ever play the game of football in the world, not just the NFL, in the entire damn world. He was the greatest, a Chicago Southside native, 9 siblings, number 3 overall pick. I mean, just somebody who you look at and say what he did at Illinois for college football, the Dick Butkus Award, the Butkus Award in college football every single year, just the monsters of the Midway mentality. You need to win that game. We talked about it in pregame. We talked about it in postgame. If you were in the Bears therapy session after this on TikTok Live, if you haven't hit that follow button already on TikTok, definitely smack it. We're almost at 20K. But with that being said, talking about it and really getting into it, having that conversation, you know, when you grow up in this city, you hear these stories of legends. I'm 23 years old, and all I've ever heard in my life is stories about Walter Payton, Michael Jordan, Ernie Banks, and Dick Butkus. And that's just the facts. You don't go around this city without hearing about some of these guys. Bobby Hall, Stan Mikita, the list goes on. I mean, there are guys in this building, in this city, who are pillars and will forever be pillars in this organization and in this city. Forever legends. And with that being said, having that conversation about what happened shortly before the game, obviously Dick Butkus passing away at the age of 80. You know, it's a mentality, man. It's a mentality. Jarrett Payton, so many others were very vocal about it. People at ESPN, people at The Score, talking about what that game really meant for so many people. I mean, I'm sure that locker room felt that. One thing I will say about Flus is he is a man of integrity. He is a man of understanding, and he is a man of many beliefs. Whether you believe in the hits principle or not, I'm sure he felt that game. I'm sure he went into this game knowing we got to rip their fucking heads off. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. We got some other news before we get into the game itself. Chase Claypool was traded today to the Miami Dolphins. Let's get into what he was traded for. He was traded for a 6th-round pick in 2025. The Chicago Bears traded away Chase Claypool and a 7th-round pick in 2025 for a 6th-round pick in 2025. He will be going to Mike McDaniel, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Tua Tagovailoa. He's their problem now. I don't care. You know, everybody wants to talk about, you know, we traded away the 33rd overall pick for Chase Claypool. I was very adamant about it right as it happened. You know, I'm a big believer in Mike Tomlin. I believe he's a man of men. You know, he's a leader of men. And I think when you have that conversation, who is Mike Tomlin? Mike Tomlin is somebody that is going to put up with you and he's going to stick up for you, even through the bad, as long as you believe in what he's trying to do and as long as you're putting your best foot forward. That's why I wasn't really big on Chase Claypool when we originally brought him in. If you're willing to put up with Big Ben, with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, George Pickens, and all these other characters, and all these different personalities and egos, but you're not willing to put up with Chase Claypool, it's a telling sign. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Ryan Poles was very vocal last night that he will not be a part of this organization moving forward. And less than 24 hours later, not even the next afternoon, the next morning, he was gone. But with that being said, let's get into the Butkus game, because that's what we're calling it. The Butkus game, baby. Absolutely phenomenal performance. First and foremost, we're going to get this out of the way. 85 Super Bowl champion Ron Rivera, head coach of the Washington Commanders, put on a show. I mean, Sam Howell, UNC quarterback, 37 for 51 with 388 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Didn't get to see a lot of Terry McLaurin last night, and I felt like that was something that the Bears defense definitely did capitalize on. I thought that was going to be a big part of what really disrupted us. Another guy who I started in fantasy football, Logan Thomas, who I knew was going to get after it, definitely did. But they really went against Curtis Samuel. Logan Thomas kind of went after it that way. We really neutralized Brian Robinson Jr. and Gibson as well. I like the way this Bears defense went after it. Greg Stroman Jr. obviously got an interception on Sam Howell. That was amazing. So congratulations to him. He's stepping up big time, as Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon have been missing a couple games. But with that being said, let's talk about the performance by DJ Moore and the Chicago Bears offense. Justin Fields on the day had a 51% completion, which isn't great, but he had 282 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and the big key here, 0 fumbles. 0 fumbles. Absolutely amazing game by Justin Fields. He absolutely balled out, but he is not the face of what we're talking about. Now, he also had 11 carries for 57 yards. Khalil Herbert, who left this game with a leg injury, went 10 for 76. Blessing Game, who filled in for Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert, had 8 for 26. Roschon Johnson, who left this game with a concussion, had 3 for 19. But let's talk about the big story. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend himself, DJ Moore, ladies and gentlemen. DJ Moore had himself a game, 8 receptions for 230 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 passing touchdowns. Absolutely phenomenal. Receiving 3 touchdowns in this game is absolutely huge, especially at this point in the season. Cole Kmet followed that up with 5 for 42 with 1 touchdown, and then Robert Tonyan had 2 for 10. I would have liked to see him utilized a little bit more in this offense throughout this season, especially Luke Getsy, who spent a lot of time with him in Green Bay. I figured he'd be a much bigger part of this offense. But, I loved what we saw. I loved what we're getting out of this right now. Somebody said, how many years do you think Fields has left in Chicago? And that's a great question. You know what I mean? That's a great question. And I think the last 2 games have really expanded that conversation. I mean, truthfully. Because, 2 weeks ago, we're talking about, man, like, this could be it. This could be it. Right now, Justin Fields has over 699 yards in the last 2 games. He has 8 touchdowns and 1 interception. 8 passing touchdowns, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what you want to see. And yes, I hear you. It's against the Washington Commanders, and it's against the Denver Broncos. I hear you. But what conversation are we having right now if Justin Fields doesn't do well against those teams? You know what I mean? Like, you need to see, if you do bad or average, below average even, against good teams, elite teams, I can get away with that. If you do horrible against dog water teams, hot dog water teams, we're having a problem. We're having a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, what we saw last year against the Commanders, woof. You know what I mean? But what we saw this year, that's progress. Okay, we're starting to see movement. Somebody that I am very worried about on this team is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney has the right mentality. Darnell Mooney has the right skill set. Darnell Mooney is athletic enough and talented enough and educated enough to be a number 2 wide receiver on this team. Why we haven't seen that yet, especially after the departure of Chase Claypool, I don't know. And obviously the ankle injury was such a huge part of that. Going into last season and missing the remainder of last season and missing a big part of this season. But he just doesn't look like himself. A couple people in the comments are saying he can't catch. A couple people in the comments are saying he's just not confident, or he's too small. And, I really don't want to hear that, though, at the same time, because I've seen him catch. I've seen him make plays. I've seen him play big. And I've seen him be the best version of himself, where I do hear what everybody's saying in the critique. It's also like I've seen better versions of him in the past, though. You know what I mean? And I think that's really my confusion right now is what's bothering Darnell Mooney that's getting him to this point? I don't think it's anything about him specifically. I think the nagging injuries, I think, trying to play catch up while everybody else had a full summer of healing, had a full summer of practice, had a full summer of drills, OTAs, training camp, etc. And he's playing catch up. So I definitely think that's a problem. Lack of protection is definitely another part of it as well. Darnell Mooney's game is kind of vertically. He's not a guy who's going to be on the hash. He's not a guy who's going to be on the sideline playing for short yards. He's a guy who's, he's running his post routes. He's running his deep routes, and he's doing his thing. So he's running his goes. And I think when you have those conversations and you look at Justin Fields' protection, I think that's also another part of it as well. But really quickly, let's get to a couple comments because we got a couple on Facebook and we got a couple on TikTok right now. We got my guy Andrew said, the shy kid out here killing it. Appreciate you, brother. Is Fields the guy now? Andrew says, is Fields the guy now? I think that's a great question. And Andrew and those boys do amazing things over there. Definitely check out their stuff. I'm going to share out all their stuff in the description so you guys can check it out. But, I never – here's my thing about Fields. I was never out on Fields as the guy. I think the question was, can he be the guy here? Can we allow him to be the guy here? I think that's really where it comes down to is like, are we going to put him in a position to succeed? You know what I mean? And I think that's really where I'm at. That's really the conversation I think a lot of us need to be having is what are we going to do moving forward, especially in this year's draft? If you want to go after a quarterback, that's fine. But just know then you're going to be playing with another question mark. You got to hopefully try to develop another quarterback. It just doesn't make sense. When Fields is showing the strides that he's showing. And Yoel said Moore is a number one wide receiver for sure. He showed up huge, 100%. But yeah, man, I think there's so many different parts of this game that we can look at and say it was just a positive. It was just a positive, baby. Like I said when we started this live, man, like I said, this is for all the dogs. Drake knew what he was doing when he dropped today. He knew it was Victory Friday. Well, Club Dub is back, baby. We're back and we're better than ever. I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited about it. But I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. We're going to be going live later talking Chicago Cubs baseball. We're going to remain live on TikTok Live, so don't go anywhere. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys for listening. This is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic. You can follow me at the